Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You're welcome to today's presentation. Good morning. Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Good morning, madam.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, I welcome everyone, especially again to yet another presentation on the CEMGS virtual seminar presentation. We welcome everyone in a very special way. Today promises to be another exciting moment. We are having a very, very renowned in our midst to share with us some very good academic issues on migration here today. Our presenter for today is a professor of English on the Faculty of Arts, National Open University of Nigeria. She is the first female Deputy Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, the person of Professor Joy Chinwe Eyisi. She is the pioneer director of National Open University of Nigeria Special Studies Center for the National Assembly, Abuja. In 2007, she emerged the youngest professor of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, where she taught English language courses for a period of 19 years before joining National Open University of Nigeria on full-time capacity in 2018. In March 2021, she marked her 25 years experience as a university lecturer. She is a recipient of many academic leadership awards, both nationally and internationally, including the maiden award of NOUN for the best lecturer on sabbatical in 2010-2011. She is presently the director, Students Industrial Work Experience Scheme, SIWES, National Open University of Nigeria, Abuja, Nigeria. Professor Eyisi is the student's dream teacher. She is well published. She says her common slogan is, aspire to the zenith. Never look for very good where excellence is possible. What a beautiful slogan. She, I must say, is someone that I also personally admire because of her poise, because of her courage. She is an enviable person. Her presentation today is titled Language and Migration, Place of Communicative Competence in English. We are very happy to have you here, Ma, and we say we are looking forward to this very exciting moment with you. So you have the virtual space, Ma, to talk with us. You have been given permission to share your screen and to be a co-host, so you can share your screen. So over to you, Ma. You are welcome. And recording is on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes. I started sharing.
Good. At the Igbo part of Nigeria, where I hail from, the kind of greeting we give to someone who is so special and so dear to us is a hug in the form of a warm embrace. And I cannot allow distance to rob me of this beautiful greeting. And so wherever you are, please receive a hug from me. Take your right hand to your left shoulder. Take your, I know it was Professor, you are not hugging me. Take your right hand to your phone. Now take your left hand to your right shoulder. Hold me dearly. Oh. Thank you. That's a hug from me for all of us. Thank you. Yeah, you can now leave me alone. Good. I bring you greetings from my Vice Chancellor and from all the staff and students of our National Open University of Nigeria. You are all welcome. Permit me to use this opportunity to thank the Director, Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies, a lady with enviable personality, Dr. Gloria Aneto, and her team for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be with you. The topic of my presentation is language and migration, the place of communicative competence.
Yourself, Ma. You can unmute yourself. I muted all because of the noise. You can unmute yourself, Ma.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I said at this point we shall define some basic terms in our topic, not because we do not know their meanings, but for purposes of drawing our attention to them. The first word I want us to define is language. Language is the principal means of communicating our feelings from one person to another. And we can have that done through speech or through writing or through the use of gestures. Sorry. The next one is migration. Migration can be the movement of people from one location to another location for purposes of settling there permanently or temporarily. Communicative competence is the ability to use language correctly and appropriately to accomplish communication goals. English is the language of England. It is widely used in many different parts of the world in its different varieties. It is generally known as the world language. By means of introduction, I want us to understand that there are two characteristics of human. The first one can be this movement from one place to another, which we call migration. And the second is the communication ability, the use of language to speak, to write. And this presentation will be done in three different parts. The first one, language of communication. The second one, points of emphasis, avoidable errors. And the third, building our communication skills. The first one, language of communication, is simple. We have already chosen English, but the question is, why have we decided to choose the English language? We have decided to choose the English language because English, like we've said, is a world language. With English, you can succeed in any part of the world. Even if your own language is not spoken there, you can find one or two persons who speak the English language with whom you can communicate and sell successfully in your new location. The problem we have with English is that it is not easy to learn. Our mother tongue is not as difficult as the English language when learning. The reason is that the words of our mother tongue can be spelled from the pronunciation and can be pronounced from the spelling. So when you are able to understand the spelling of any word of the Igbo language, the Hausa language, or the Yoruba language, that is the three major languages in Nigeria, you will be able to pronounce them accordingly, because you can get the pronunciation of these words from the spelling of the words. Let us take, for instance, the word of the English language that is house, H-O-U-S-E. This word in the Igbo language is known as Olo. In the Hausa language, it is known as Gida. In the Yoruba language, it is called Ile. In each of these languages, the pronunciation can be deciphered from the spelling of the words. But that is not the same for the English language. Now you can see the English words, for instance, the word O-N-E-1. The pronunciation is completely different from its spelling. Look at E-W-E. This word is pronounced exactly as Y-O-U, U. Two of them are homophones. The pronunciation is different from the spelling. Now look at this, choir, C-H-O-I-R. The pronunciation is choir, quite different from the spelling. If we are to pronounce it from spelling, one may say choir, but that's not what it is choir. Look at luxury, luxury, L-U-X-U-R-Y. Look at vehicle, vehicle, not vehicle. Look at student, not student, it is student. Look at kernel, look at Q. Someone was saying, why don't we just spell this word with only one Q? Or look at the spelling, Q-U-E-U-E, Q. Just one single Q could have done the spelling, but we have all of these letters. One single letter Q could have done the job, but we have all of these other letters to pronounce the simple word Q. So you can see words of the English language, this pronunciation cannot be got from the spelling. Any attempt to pronounce it from the spelling will generate grievous error. Communication and understanding. The sole purpose of communication is to understand. This means that in the absence of understanding, there is no basis for communication. Of course, when you communicate without understanding, it is synonymous with winking at a girl in the dark, and any man who does that knows that nothing happens. She does not see you. Look at this man. He is from Poland. And you know, people from Poland are known as Polish people. For purposes of better living, he decided to leave Poland and he migrated to the United States of America. He got married to a young lady, and two of them were living together, managing their communication abilities superbly, until one day, while he was searching for something in his wife's drawer, he found this bottle. And he was shocked. The bottle for him was poison to remove him from this earth. And so he left quickly to the police station. While in the police station, he complained that his wife was planning to poison him. The police officer asked him, "Did he threaten to poison you?" He said, "No, there was no threat." Did she tell anybody that she would want to kill you? He said, "No, I didn't hear her telling anybody." And the police officer now asked, "How then do you know that your wife would want to kill you. He brought out this bottle and showed the police officer, saying, "Look at this bottle. I can read and understand precisely what is written on it. It says polish remover." And the police officer laughed hilariously. I want to tell us the experience of my friend Emeka. A Nigerian like me, Emeka in 2001 decided to migrate from Nigeria to the UK. He told me that Nigeria was no longer comfortable for him and he wanted better living elsewhere. He migrated to the United Kingdom. While he was there, every day he would call me to complain about one language-related problem and another. And on a particular day, he called and he was weeping. Emeka said that he attended a conference. On the first day of this conference, he met this lady. Look at Emeka, look at this lady. And the lady was very kind to him. They talked, they laughed, and they left after the opening ceremony. The following day, they came again. Emeka met this lady and then asked her, "How was the night? How was your night?" The lady did not make any response. Again, Emeka thought maybe she didn't hear him and repeated his question. "How was your night, Miriam?" And Miriam looked at him, felt embarrassed, but didn't say a word. They took their breakfast, got back to their tables. Emeka got to her, sat directly opposite her, wondering why she never responded. And this time, looking at her directly, eyeball to eyeball, Emeka repeated his question. "Miriam, is anything wrong? I've been asking you, how was your night?" At this time, Miriam took her cup of coffee and emptied it on Emeka's head, ranting furiously. "What business do you have with my night? How does it concern you?" Emeka was embarrassed. Many people came together. There was chaos, so much so that both of them were dismissed from the conference. Emeka was lamenting. And when he rounded off his story to me, I calmed him down and I asked him to relax, and then that this is not, because he was feeling that it was the problem of racism. And I said, "No, Emeka, this is the same problem of language-related issues we've been battling with." Now, I want you to Google the meaning of "how was your night?" And when he did that, what he saw shocked him. "How was your night" simply means how was your last night sex in the English language. Emeka himself was embarrassed. The question he was asking innocently meant something else to the white lady. Now, if the language is not correct, what is said is not what is meant. If what is said is not what is meant, then what ought to be done remains undone. If this remains undone, morals and acts deteriorate. If morals and acts deteriorate, justice goes astray. If justice is right, the people will stand about in helpless confusion. Hence, there must be no arbitrariness in what is said. This matters above everything. These are the words of Confucius. At this point, we shall go to the third version, the second version of our presentation, points of emphasis, avoidable errors. There are many errors we have to give attention to so that we don't commit them like Emeka did in the course of his migration. For success in our migration, we need to understand that the word staff means the totality of people working in an establishment. This means that one person cannot be staff. He is not our staff, is therefore on English. He is our staff, is on English. The right thing to say is, he is not a member of our staff, or he is a member of our staff. An European teaches English in my university. The wrong pronunciation of European is the reason for this error. As a rule, when the pronunciation is begun with the consonant sound, as we have in European, it will go with the an version of the article. An apple, an orange, if it starts with a consonant, it will go with a version. If it starts with a vowel sound, it will go with an, as in apple, an orange, an aeroplane, but a European, a book, a pen, and so on. So what we should have is a European teaches English in my university. All troubleshooters and dupes must be punished for their evil deeds. A troubleshooter is a peacemaker. A dupe is somebody who is duped, cheated, or deceived. These are innocent people, and so they should not be punished for any evil deed. The right thing to say should be all troublemakers and tricksters must be punished for their evil deeds. There is a wakekeeping in Chief Udo's house tonight. There is no word as wakekeeping in English. What we have is wake. There is a wake in Chief Udo's house tonight. The only addendum for this meeting is examination malpractice. Addendum and agenda are both Latin words, meaning the singular and plural version, respectively. The English language borrowed agenda and left addendum. So in English, agenda stands for both singular and plural. If you want to make it singular in your expression, the right thing to say would be the only item on the agenda for this meeting is examination malpractice, not addendum, because addendum is on English. You should sign your signature here. This is a common error. You could hear this even from the bank manager. What we do in English is to sign our name, or we append our signature, or we put down our signature. So the right thing to say should be, you should sign your name here. Avoid this error. Do not imitate it, especially in the course of your migration. She is the Commissioner for Women Affairs. Some weeks ago, I was going in town here in Abuja. I came over to the Ministry of Women's Affairs. I saw the Ministry of Women Affairs. This glaring error of omission of the inverted comma, the omission of the apostrophe on this kind of expression is common. Glaring omission, we must not imitate it. The right thing to say should be, she is the Commissioner for Women's Affairs. Women's Affairs. Dr. Mrs. Amina Abubakar is a vivacious woman. Nigerians are usually fond of titles. Do not use two titles at the same time. Many times you hear Chief Dr. Mrs., Dr. Reverend, Professor Mrs. But nobody talks about Professor Mr., Dr. Mr. Dr. Mrs. Amina Abubakar is as wrong as Dr. Mr. Abubakar. Now we know it is wrong to say Dr. Mr. We should also realize it is wrong to say Dr. Mrs. because what Mr. is to a man is what Mrs. is to a woman. Avoid the use of chains of titles. Use academic title in the academic environment and chieftaincy title in cultural environment. The right thing to say here should be, Dr. Amina Abubakar is a vivacious woman. Good morning, madam, to a woman known to you. Madam has three different meanings. The first one is the polite way of addressing a woman whose name you do not know, whether married or unmarried. That means that the moment you know the name of this woman, she ceases to be madam to you. Madam is the title given to a woman who is in charge of a brothel where prostitutes are trained. The lady in charge of all the prostitutes in that brothel is known as madam. Madam could also be used informally to refer to a young girl who wishes other people to obey her. In that case, one can say, get away from here, you little madam. She's commanding respect, wanting everybody to obey her. So you can use that in the informal sense. Do not use madam to a woman whose name you know. The right thing to say is, good morning, Mrs. Okoro, Dr. Okoro, or Professor Okoro, as the case may be. The way and manner in which they reported the matter shocked me. Way and manner in this expression is tautological. It's either you use way or you use manner. The way in which they reported the matter shocked me, or the manner in which they reported the matter shocked me. How are you? And B responded, we thank God. C also responded, we are managing. The response to how are you is fine, thank you. It is not we thank God. It is not we are managing. We should not allow our religious idiosyncrasy to interfere with our use of English. Lectures we hold in the evening. The meeting we hold on Monday. A service of thanksgiving and praise. Host at Kana House. The lecture, meeting, or service of thanksgiving cannot hold anything. They do not hold, but lectures will be held in the evening. The meeting will be held on Monday. A service of thanksgiving and praise takes place at Kana House. Avoid this common expression. I will visit you on Upper Monday. Avoid such expression. Upper Monday is on English. Instead, say, I will visit you on Monday week. for better, for worse. You hear this during wedding and such announcement. It is on English. The right thing to say is for better or worse. It is also acceptable to say for better or for worse. The use of or is obligatory in the expression, but for is optional. I will travel next tomorrow. The right thing is I will travel the day after tomorrow, because next tomorrow is on English. You can also say next week, next Monday, next year, but not next tomorrow. My fiance told me he would come by 9 p.m. I was surprised to see him at 8:45. Usually we hear this error when we say the meeting will take place by 10. By means any time up to, but not later than. It is not a definite time expression. Avoid the use of by when you want to talk about a definite time. The right thing to say would be, my fiance told me he would come at 9 p.m. I was surprised to see him at 8:45. Ladies and gentlemen, I have come to the end of my speech. Sometimes people would think that if we have only one lady in a meeting or something related to that, we should say lady and gentlemen, but that is not true. The expression is always ladies and gentlemen, whether we have only one lady or 20 ladies in the organization. How do you do to someone who is familiar to you? We use how do you do when you are meeting a person for the first time. When this person is already well known to you, avoid the use of how do you do. The right expression would be, how are you? When you meet a person for the first time, you ask, how do you do? It can be accompanied with an introduction. How do you do? I'm Joy AEC. The respondent may say, how do you do? I am Moses Ajiboye. More grease to your elbow. This is on English. It is an idiomatic expression. There is no grease in that expression. The right thing to say is more power to your elbow. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. This is also another idiomatic expression. There is no good in that expression. What we say in good English is, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. My name is Okonkwo Janet. Okonkwo is the surname here. Many people, especially students of our secondary schools and even in the university, do not know how to say their names and how to write their names. This person has written her name, Okonkwo, surname, and then Janet as her first name. It is wrong in English. First name is first name. It is not for nothing that it is called first name. And then the middle name and the surname is the last name. It comes last, except where otherwise demanded. And it is usually said in such situations, surname first. If it is not said in that order, then you must have your first name first, your middle name, and your last name where necessary. The right thing here should be, my name is Janet Okonkwo. If, however, you must say, write your surname first for any reason, then there must be a mandatory comma after the surname. In the absence of this comma, it means that Okonkwo is the first name and Janet is the surname. That brings us to the last section of our presentation, building our communication skills for successful migration. There are different communication skills. Many of them, we have only harvested a dozen of them here. Emotional intelligence. How many minutes do I have?
You still have 5 minutes, ma. 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Round off so that we can ask
Emotional
questions.
intelligence, that means just ability to handle our emotion as we communicate with one another. We need to imbibe this skill, not only in our migration journey, but also in other activities in our relation to one another. Cohesion and clarity. When we communicate, we should be able to ensure that what we say, our expressions are in cohesive order, with clarity, avoiding ambiguity, avoiding irrelevancies, friendliness. We should imbibe friendly attributes. This is important. Attributes of trust, attributes of genuineness. We should have confidence. Self-confidence is crucial because without self-confidence, if we don't trust ourselves, the other person may not have confidence in us. So we need to imbibe confidence. Remember, age or years wrinkle the skin, but lack of self-confidence wrinkles the mind. That is more reason why we have to be confident. Self-confidence is crucial in whatever we do in our relationship with other people. Empathy is another communication skill that is worthy of emulation. We need to empathize with other people. When we empathize, we put ourselves in other people's shoes, we feel their feelings, and we will be able to understand their perspectives and why they do what they do. That will help us to appreciate them. Respect is another quality, communication skill that can help to open successful doors for us. We need to respect one another. Imbibing this in our character is important. Listening. When I talk about listening, I do not mean hearing, because listening is more than hearing. It involves the use of active senses. Here we are talking about active listening, not passive, so that we understand what is being communicated to us. Asking good questions. In our communication with other people, we should be able to ask questions where we have some doubts. And when questions are thrown to us too, we should be able to answer correctly in polite ways. Giving and receiving feedback is another. Able to give feedback as another important communication skill, and we should be able to receive that well. Giving commendations where necessary. Open-mindedness. We should not have negative agenda or ulterior motive in our communication with other people. Body language. Most of the time, our body language speaks volumes much more than the words of our mouth. We should imbibe positive attitude. Our body language should signify some positivity in what we communicate. Our communication methods, whether we should use the words of the mouth, whether we should use writing or email, is also important. We need to know the methods and know when to use whichever one to communicate our ideas effectively. The means of conclusion.
One minute, okay.
Thank you. 1 minute more. Yes, I now conclude by using the words of Jeffrey Gitoma. He said, your grammar is a reflection of your image. Good or bad, you have made an impression. And like all other impressions, you are in total control. I want to believe that all of us will choose good grammar for effective communication, not only in our migration agenda, but in all the things we do with other people for successful lifestyle. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Emma. Stop sharing. Thank you. Beautiful, very, very enriching. In fact, I enjoyed every bit of it. And everybody, so many people are interested in asking questions, but I will start from Professor Abdallah Obadamu, who sent me a chat. First and foremost, that I want to ask questions. So, Prof. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here from Kaduna State University, where I'm doing my sabbatical, and everybody here is fine. There was no way I could miss listening to my mommy present what I call our pride and our joy. And as usual, it is a very, very illuminating and learning experience. I have one or two issues, I think, comments, observations that I think will provide a greater product for discussion. When I was at NOUN, there was a professor who walked into the office of the vice chancellor, and I said, "Good morning, madam," and she was offended, and I thought, what did I do wrong? He said that well, she's a professor, and you shouldn't just call her madam. She's not a market woman or something like that, and I apologize. But you see, our pride and joy. How the Nigerian or even African cultural norms do not allow me to say Professor Aishi, that's too formal. But ma, madam, hajia, malama, these are expressions of respect. In a formal situation, yes, at a dinner table, in a conference, but along the corridor is the sign of respect. I find it very difficult to call Rukaiya, the former Minister of Education, to say Professor Rufai.
Sorry, sir. Please,
Malama
sir. Okay.
Yeah, Malama Rukaiya or Hajia Rukaiya. That does not demean her professorship. So I think we need to understand the context in which we use those Madam, Malam, Al-Haji, and so on. And also, the coordinator made that mistake. She said, "You have 5 minutes, ma." Now, this is unforgivable in this situation. It should be, you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes to go.
No. You have 5 minutes, Professor Aishi. But you said, ma. You said ma. So, but the fact that you say ma means you are respecting her. Not it's too much respect, a lot of respect. You can't just simply say, you have 5 minutes, Joy. In fact, I don't think anybody has ever called her Joy, except under formal circumstances. Secondly, the issue of religiosity and English, again, is all back to cultural norms and cultural perception. Maybe the English don't say we thank God, but in our cultures throughout Nigeria, we say Alhamdulillah, we thank God, we are grateful to God. So does that mean that speaking proper English denies acknowledgement to God? How do the English people acknowledge God? I mean, if you are in a situation where you have to thank God, if you're an Englishman, what do you do? It would be interesting to know, because I know that I say, Alhamdulillah, thank God, we thank God. And then we are managing, what else can I say? I mean, we are coping, we are surviving, we are managing. So we can recreate the grammar to fit our cultural context. And then, even in the proper English, there are expressions that seem to be a little bit deviant, like, how you doing? I'm good to go. I'm good. I have seen this on computer terms, particularly with Microsoft, where you are good to go. So is this proper English? But Americans are using it. That does not mean that it is proper English. But I would like to know more about that. And then My main concern is Emeka, the poor Emeka, who will say, how was your night? In Hausa language, we say, ka kwana lafiya? Did you sleep well? Or ka tashi lafiya? Did you wake up well? There was no connotation to sex, but of course, the differences between the societies and communities might create misunderstanding when it is transiting from one language and going into another language. And I think we might be able to have a whole paper on this kind of quirkiness of language, the way in which language transforms its meaning when it moves from one place to another, even though the syntax remain the same. And then we're talking about, finally, I'm sorry, I'm taking too long, we're talking about migrant skills. I mean, all this, the last slide that you talk about, most of the people who migrate, they do to Europe, and they do it illegally. So we don't know when we can get them together and to talk to them about this, because we don't want them to migrate at all. We want them to stay where they are. And those who migrate to like America and England, English language, they do so because they are already highly educated. So they already have all these grammatical context in mind. But I have learned quite a lot, and it's good to see the grand old man. He's there, he's waving his hand to talk about the dead Greek philosopher. So our pride and our joy. I'm sorry I call you our pride and our joy instead of Professor Joe Ishi. But that's a bit more humane. Joe Ishi sounds so formal, so straight-laced, so straight up. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Congratulations.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you, sir. Please, Prof, we have to take all the questions. We will take all the questions before you respond. So, our emeritus professor, yourself,
oh,
can now make your.
Is it me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, sir, we are hearing you.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say hello to that young man, that vice chancellor. He's always full of life. Fantastic man. Huh? And don't be running away. Always be on this program, please, regularly, so we can see your face. Now, I think this lecture, you will expect, it's a fantastic lecture. There's no part of it that is dull, and it's all true. You have to listen to you compared to listen to every word, and it's very interesting. But I just want to, the first point I want to make is this question of why English, why we speak English. I think the reason we speak English is not just because it is a world language, but because it is the language of our colonial conquerors. That's what exposed us to English. There are a lot of people who are not that exposed to English, and it is not because English is a world language. Therefore, every country speaks English. Now, I just wanted to make that point first. The second point I want to make is that we thank God that many of us have lived with these errors. And the question is this: who really is not guilty of any one of these? Even now that we have listened to this lecture, there's no guarantee that I will go out and not commit one of them today. And there are so many. So the solution really is for us to live with the Nigerian English. We have no choice. You see, because it's so complicated. If we must now, particularly people of my age, if I now must live and begin to take one after the other of this language, I just will not be able to cope. That is the truth. So I must confess that I will continue to live with these errors, the Nigerian English. This Nigerian English is very, very interesting. When I was in Wales doing my PhD, my teacher used to say that, look, when you get to an office and you say the man is not on seat, that is not English. And I told him it's English. I told him that in Nigeria it is English. Somebody is not on seat, we understand what you are saying. So, but if you say that in Cardiff, the British man would not understand what you are saying. Okay, but I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to a Nigerian. So a lot of this language with their errors, once they are in between Nigerians and they convey the idea, I don't think there's much wrong. We can just continue to live like that. Thank you very much. It's very, very interesting.
Thank you very much, Emeritus Professor. We appreciate you. Professor, can we hear your comment? Professor Tijani.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to the presenter for giving us what I will call part one of many series. What do I mean by part one? In the context of the first two guys and mentors of mine, I think that is clear enough. One, when we talk about migration, we are not just looking at the English-speaking folks or people that have been colonized, and of course, their official language is now English. That is one. We should also do a comparative analysis of other languages such as French and Spanish. And the fact that this presentation is from a convert, because perhaps because the presenter is an English professor, it's the correct way of saying it. Secondly, I would also like us to begin to look at the fact which we have more of, at least the TED Fund scholars that we also had more. I don't know why they joined, because I know the offer is English. I know that Professor Pandi, who was born in has been expression with them, but they will have learned a lot in this presentation. Thirdly, let me also say that I can, or the rest of you should be rest assured, we will call on you. It's an ideal pre-departure for this increasing number of funds within the context of my current assignment and employment, because to understand, it is within that context that I'm seeing the presentation, because I was expecting, and this is my last comment, I was expecting more of connecting the relationship of languages, of adaptation, of modification, of survival, of retention when they made it to the promised land, whether it is across the Atlantic or via the Indian Ocean that predates the Atlantic, or through the Sahara and the Mediterranean that predates the Atlantic. Looking at the timeline, but more importantly in contemporary, in terms of diaspora, excuse me, just give me some.
Okay. I think you are muted now, but I can't hear you again. Okay, and the network is not so good. We can't hear you.
You should be able to hear me now.
So maybe take someone else.
Hear me. I'm not muted. I'm not muted. You can hear me.
Okay, we can hear you now, but the network was breaking. Okay.
I'm not muted. Let me put together my thought, please.
Conclude.
So what I'm saying is that migration and language, I'm looking at the role of the various diaspora associations, whether in Germany, in England, in Scandinavia, countries in United States, Jamaica, even in the immediate, in the long term, we're talking about, let's for instance, 16, or even the 19th century, language of survival. Take for instance the Igbo enslaved people making it to Jamaica, or the Yoruba making it to North Carolina. They decided to not only recreate themselves, but created a language that is unique to their survival. In Brazil, we have the Quilombo that fought, the Spanish for years, and they had to, enter into a treaty for their emancipation. So you have to look at that aspect also. But let's talk about recent history and the United States, the founding fathers. What is the origin of their way of spelling? And some of what Professor Dalla eloquently alluded to in terms of not only recreating, but changing the English language to have what we call today American English. So those are some of the things that I think perhaps you have in your paper. Perhaps it will be a second aspect of the presentation. And let me round up by saying that professorial presentation should please not be limited to 40, 30 minutes. Okay, it should not, please. They have more to share with us, more to mentor us, more to give to us, and we must take advantage of effectively utilizing them. It took me forever to get Professor Whiskey, and it took me forever to get, who was the last speaker? But you were able to get them. Perhaps maybe you are a distinguished professor and a female, and that's a joke. Okay, but they've come, and so please let's give them more time to.
Okay, sorry, we had a power failure here, and now we are back. Sorry for the break in transmission. Thank you very much, Professor Tiani, for your question or comments quickly, so that we can give the presenter the time to respond. Any other person? I can't see any hand up. I got some hands up earlier, and now nobody up hand again. So, okay, let the presenter respond to the comments so far. Let's hear Professor Eyusi. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you quite vividly. Thank you very much for granting me another opportunity to respond to the brilliant questions. It's good I didn't know my Vice Chancellor was here from the beginning. I got to know after I had rounded up everything. Thank you so much. Your presence is highly an honor to me. And about the issue of madam and its use in Nigeria, I agree with you that in our context here, madam is understood as a form of respect, politely. Ma is a short form of madam. When you use it here, we understand you. But then very well, we sympathize with the user in such usage, because it appears either you do not know my name or you simply want it to be highly official. I know some children in their homes who answer their father, sir, and their mother, ma. Emeka, ma. Abdallah, sir. You know, yes. And it simply means that I do not know you. Mom, I do not know you. And even some wives who answer their husbands, sir. And at a point in my classroom, and we had that challenge, and I asked my students, how do we handle that issue? They asked me, how can you sleep with him last night and you wake up this morning to say, man, I do not know you? because sir simply means you do not know the name. Ma, short form of madam, you do not know her name. Strictly formal for someone whose name you do not know. Yeah, why we can forgive you for using it in Nigeria context. You may not be forgiven for using it outside Nigeria, for instance, a place in the United Kingdom. And the essence of this paper is for purposes of migration, leaving Nigeria for somewhere else. And so we felt that the real thing is to alert us on such meaning so that we don't embarrass ourselves like Emeka did in his own usage of how was your night. The second expression is religiosity and English. How are you? And somebody responding, we thank God, or we are managing. Yes, it is the same as number one. While we can forgive such expressions in Nigeria, we may not accept that elsewhere. And besides, whatever that is worth doing at all is worth doing well. If we must speak the English language, it is important that we speak it well, correctly, the way it should be spoken. And yes, you also mentioned the issue of how was your night? Yeah, it can be understood here. Many people will always ask me, how was your night? And I will respond, fine, thank you. But then in my heart of hearts, I will feel they do not know. They do not know. And so I sympathize with them. In the last meeting I had at the Faculty of Arts, one of the participants asked me, how are you? And I said, could you Google this, the question you just asked me? Just Google it and let's see the meaning. Because I had the opportunity to ask or to let him know. Outside that venue, elsewhere, anybody asking me how was my night will always receive the same expression as he expected. Fine, thank you. But then inside me, I will know he is ignorant. Yes, nobody appreciates the illegal migration. We want to stop it. But as a major characteristics of human, we are always on the move, moving from one place to another. No matter how we try, we cannot be stopped. But while we encourage legal migration, we discourage illegal migration. And when we are migrating, we must arm ourselves with the good language, good English, so that we can survive in our new destination. Yes, I have some questions from our emeritus professor. Why English? Remember, this question in its full version is, why have we chosen to talk about the English language for purposes of this presentation? For purposes of this presentation, we have chosen English because it is the world language, much more than any other language elsewhere. In Nigeria, for instance, it is our official language, it is the language of our business, it is the language of instruction in our schools. It is the language that serves as a barometer with which we measure the quantity and quality of education possessed by the speaker. It is the language that links all of us together as one Nigeria. But that is not the place we are going. We want to say that we have chosen English for this presentation for purposes of migration, so that when you arm yourself with good English, you will not suffer like my friend Emeka. You will not be humiliated. You will use language in your communication with other people in that environment without being misunderstood. So that's why we have chosen English. Yes, we know that after listening to this, you may still commit the same expression, you may still say it again. But when you do, you will remember that it is wrong. To you, no longer an error, it is a mistake. There's a whole world of difference between errors and mistakes. They are not the same. Errors are committed as a result of ignorance. You do not know. You do not understand the rules and regulations guiding the use of language. But mistakes, anybody is prone to mistakes. Anybody can make mistakes. Even in our own native languages, we can make mistakes there. But one thing is primary about mistakes. The moment you make a mistake, if your attention is drawn to it, you will know, oh, it's a mistake, and you can correct it. You will have it corrected immediately. But if it were an error, if your attention is drawn to it 1,000 times, you don't understand, so you will not be able to have it corrected. So after listening to this presentation and you see yourself saying the same thing again, maybe asking a friend of yours, how do you do? You will remember, oh, how do you do should not be used in this context. Because you have known it, it is now a mistake. It cannot be seen as an error. Yes, thank you very much, Tijani. I agree with you that we should give attention to other languages like French, German, and a whole lot of others. I welcome all your suggestions. They are well taken, and I feel honored by your kind words. Thank you very much for all of you that have asked questions, and thank you. Yes, Professor.
Thank you very much, man. I can see I quickly also want to add one or two things. I'll give Prof another chance. I want to say I am sorry for committing the error, the Professor. There's too much respect. How do we cut that? Sometimes it's because of upbringing. That's culturally inclined. Culture has affected us. So respect and respect. Of course, we know that the English people don't really have much respect, but however, they have respect too. Because the word respect is from English, so they have some respect. But in our culture and our training, so that is something that we have to fight to make it.
I'm sorry to butt in. What does Professor Aishi propose? To be called Joy, Madam, or Professor Aishi, or Professor Joy Aishi, or Professor Joy?
I would prefer to be called Joy. That is the sweetest name. And now you see, when you call me our pride and joy, my shoulders will raise. I'll raise my shoulders highly. Our pride and joy makes me feel so.
Yeah, but while Professor Sogolo and myself and other so-called seniors can call you Joy, I don't think the moderator, Gloria, will call you Joy. If she meets you on the corridor and say, hello, Joy, how are you? How will you feel?
For me, if he calls me Joy, for me, I'll be happy about it. It doesn't mean anything negative. It doesn't mean an insult. It is my name. And that is the sweetest thing to my ears. Joy. I will prefer that. Now, if the person wants to be semi-formal, you can talk about Professor Aisi. That is being semi-formal, but not Madam. Madam takes her completely away from me, isolates her from me, and makes me an alien in my relationship with her.
As the Vice Chancellor Emeritus, I hereby decree that we should stop calling people by their titles, or just simply call them by their first names, and see how many fights will break out in the university.
You know that because of understanding, many other people may feel out about it. They may not like it. But I don't think I don't think our Professor Emeritus will feel sad if anybody says Professor Sogolo.
Yes, the good thing is that you have made a distinction between the language in the context of Nigeria and the language in a foreign land, in an English.
Where anybody may wish to migrate.
So, that's right. I agree with you to that extent, because even though I say you can, speak the way we speak in Nigeria here, if a student writes the language for me, I'm going to correct it and say it is not correct. So it depends on the context in which you use language, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor
Tijani. Sorry, can I allow Professor Tijani to have a word or two? Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe the context is very, very important. I got into trouble when I returned to Nigeria in 2011, and I said I'm TJ. And I go to meetings, I said TJ. I remember when I joined Open University in 2017, the first faculty meeting, and I said I'm TJ. And of course, after the meeting, a lot, if not many, again, if that is an error, pardon me, I read the history, not English. We will correct it. So a lot, many of the faculty, the so-called junior, move closer to me because they feel more comfortable. Some of my colleagues were shocked. But how can you say they should be calling you TJ? No, that is not acceptable. And they often said this Americana, forgetting the fact that he's not really an Americana. He may have a dual citizenship. He started his career in what used to be Jalingo in Gongola State, not Taraba, and then spent some 10 years at LASU before migrating, as Professor Sogolo, eloquently presented, and then we published that paper. So the point is that we must understand the context of the spoken English or the use of that English. But the reason why I raise up my hand is not because of that. I just want to contribute to what the elders have said without being offended, that I am asking Joy to bring joy to us. I'll be having a meeting at 11 here at Morgan. And the meeting is about International Education Week that we are finalizing. And I think this paper, if you permit me, I will present and tell them that I'm adding this name, that getting her is no big deal. But accepting on her part is a big deal because she's so busy. But convincing my colleagues is not a big deal, okay? Because my own office has become to think. I think all the international students must listen to this. They must hear you. And those English departments, indeed, Morgan, must learn also from your fountain. So I don't want to say, ma'am, if you can give me the go ahead at 11 by 1 o'clock Eastern, I will. You have 5 hours ahead. I will get back to you and say, boom, this is it. So please, please, please. And I chose to publicly ask you to put you on the spot so that I know that I have the support of my mentors, Abasogolo and the Professor Abdallah. So the joy of the Lord bring on to all of us.
Thank you. Permit me to express my feelings in 3 simple sentences. I am thrilled. I am honored. I am challenged. Thank you so much for all your beautiful words.
I will be speaking to almost 200, don't let me say students. They are lecturers, doctoral students, and the campus-wide beyond Baltimore. Okay.
Thank you.
So we will be
so much.
Week of November 16th to, thank you.
So thank you very much for these contributions, right, left. And I want to really thank the presenter for doing us proud, because I knew it was going to be very, very insightful, and I was not disappointed. I know who I have. I want to also ask Professor Tijani, this lecture, can you kindly put the link so that we can listen to what the others have to say? Let us continue. Since we are privileged to have our presenter, we also want to have that link so that we can join you to support her and be part of it, if it is possible. What do you think?
Definitely.
Let us learn. So we can put it on our CEMGS. Can now send it to now email, as the case may be. Let us learn so that it's an international for all of us. I don't know what you think.
Be rest assured, Director, that once we cross the T and dot the I's between 11 and I think the meeting is for 3 hours, I should be able to get back to you. The Zoom link, passcode, and everything.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I want to also tell our Professor Abdallah that migration will always be, because he said no migration at all. It is migration that has made this very, very educative. And I'm sure everybody here at one time or the other has migrated, either temporarily or permanently. We have migrated, and that is where we get experiences. That's where we learn. If we don't migrate and remain in our villages, life will not be interesting. We will migrate, but for the right purpose. That's what I think.
I agree with you, because my grandson says he also wants to migrate, but the child wants to migrate to the moon.
Yes.
He wants to migrate to the moon. That's
so
fine.
It's been a very exciting moment. I thank you all. And I say it's very interesting, but we have to end. We have to end this meeting. So I'm very happy and very grateful. And I say next week, another very exciting presentation. And I'm sure Professor Abdallah and Emeritus Professor Sogolo will not miss next week, and all the other professors, because very, very exciting. Thank you so much. And bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.